I can see.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the March 10th regular board meeting of Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. May you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Mason.
Present.
Vice President Lassane.
Present.
Director Mitchell.
Present.
Director Berg.
Present.
Director Nichols.
Present.
Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Salzman, may you please provide an overview of this afternoon's agenda?
Yes, good evening. Tonight's agenda contains a recognition item, the superintendent's report, a segment for board comments, a segment for public comments, a segment for routine business, a segment for information discussion, a segment for new business, and upcoming agenda items. Since publishing the agenda, the following changes have been made. Item 11.01, Everett Public Schools Coronavirus Response Update. The presentation was added. The board may elect to change order of business by majority of vote of the members. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Nichols and seconded by Director Berg. Is there any discussion regarding the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. We are on to section 5.0, recognition, and this afternoon we have the honor of recognizing Everett's PTSA Council and the work of our 27 PTA organizations. Anyone who spends any time in our school understands the important role and partnership our PTAs provide in supporting our students and staff.
I'm sincerely sorry, but that had been changed to April 14th to accommodate the large crowd we would anticipate from getting from that. So
I was wondering about that as I was looking around the room.
Yes, so that is, we can look forward to that on April 14th.
Thank you. That takes us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Salzman.
Okay, good evening. Tonight's report will not be any visuals or any school visits, but I'd like to share a few words with our public that is listening tonight. First of all, I'd like to take this time to talk about the challenging times that this past week has endured on our school system, our city, our state, and our nation. Tonight, you will hear about the process that we have taken during this week and also weeks ahead. The entire district has shown great leadership, starting with the board of directors, principals, the outstanding cabinet members, and our community. I want to remind everybody that the cabinet is an advisory team to the superintendent. So when we make decisions, we make it as a team. And as a community, we work as a team. Sometimes processing information in a district this size does take a few minutes. Sometimes people will question the immediacy of information. But please remember, as you question that, you are partners in the work that we do every day. As we embrace social media and embrace the workings of a district, we are partners in the working of public education. We have answered every email, and we've responded to every question in a timely and professional manner. We have communicated quite well with our community. That might be a sign, okay? Right, okay. This is an unfortunate situation in our community and nation, and certainly we are not ignoring it at this time either. But the most important thing to our community and to our partners, that we continue keeping you informed and we stay calm during this process. Less anxiety and less angst, but full transparency. But when you show full transparency, people question that. but we will always stand by full transparency under the administration that I'm leading with my team. Where are we at this time? Jackson High School was closed with an immediate decision based on the advisement of the healthcare district and my cabinet. Woodside Elementary was closed for 2 days for deep cleaning. Recommendations of the healthcare district and the advisement of my cabinet. We have canceled after-school activities, field trips, and assemblies by the best advisement of the healthcare district and my cabinet. We update decisions as they go. This is a revolving door, friends. This was not planned when we opened school on Labor Day, after Labor Day. This was not planned. We heard input from everybody. We've made the best decisions for our community, and we continue to make those best decisions. We will keep everybody informed by the use of our webpage, our social media. But again, let me reiterate, you win as a team and you lose as a team. I wish everybody well during these different and confusing times for a nation. I thank you for your support and understand we will continue to be transparent during this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have an opportunity to have board comments now. This is a time when directors can share their work and comments as it relates to district business. Would anyone like to? Hi. Would you like to start us off?
Yeah, that's totally fine, yeah. So juniors took the SATs on March 4th, and it was really nice seeing juniors prepare for college and sitting for the test. And adding on to that, ASB elections are coming or have already started for most schools in the district. And students are very excited and very well informed, and just, I'm excited to see who I'm working with next year, hopefully, so.
Thank you. Director Nichols?
So I think needless to say, we've all seen a lot of panic in the community and the parents and things like that about what's going on. We are all very aware of what's happening. I myself, work in healthcare, so this is something that I talk about every day. And while I can understand the panic, I just want to reassure everybody that we have to approach this from, and we are approaching this from, an evidence-based perspective. So following recommendations from healthcare professionals, from public health professionals, things like that, so that we can continue the work of educating our children and doing the things we need to do. So I want to say to all the parents out there that feel that panic in their gut, that we hear you, we see you, and please, keep working with us, keep those communications open, and we want to be there for you and be a resource.
Dr. Berg?
So I think it's been a great month, and I just want to kind of focus on my comments on just some of the amazing kiddos and the amazing work that we've done in our schools this last month, starting with the day after our last board meeting, doing the last IR at Sequoia High School, which was amazing. Those kiddos are just on fire, and it was great to meet with the staff there as well. Right after that, spent a great day at African American Legislative Day with, again, a bunch of kids from all over the state lobbying their legislators. It's great to see kids at work and doing amazing things. The Empower to Lead Summit that we had here with those kids from the different high schools, that was great. And then kind of rounding out the month, being able to see the kids at the choirs for Heatherwood Gateway and Jackson High School. So just not forgetting that our kids are out there singing and learning and doing every day amongst all of kind of what we're dealing with in society. So it's been a great month.
And I'm going to just keep with that positive note of all of the seniors right now that are getting their letters. I've heard from a lot of kids that are getting into the UW or waitlisted to the UW for their disappointment. Other schools, ASU, Oregon State, whatever. But it is just sort of a fun time as I'm bumping into my friends and the staff around the district that I know have seniors and just asking, hey, where are they going? Where are they going? And this is just, it's a good time for a lot of seniors. And we'll play it day by day to see what happens in June.
Well, I would like to comment about the big turnout from the community at the Everett Public School Foundation breakfast. That was very nice. In this time, in this climate of, uncertainty and crisis, people still care about the work that the foundation is doing. And the foundation was able to benefit quite heavily. I was very happy to hear from the donations received by those in attendance. And you know what? All that money goes towards the education of our students. And we can be really thankful for the work that the foundation does for our students here in the community. So I do want to say thank you for coming out, supporting the foundation, and supporting our kids in general. So that was really great to see.
That was a great event and got in just under the window of cancellation of large events.
Yes.
I don't have anything personal to share in terms of the last few months, but I did want to tag on Dr. Salzman's comments about the community and the work being done in our district, and just say an enormous thank you to our staff that has been working overtime to make sure that our schools are safe, the deep cleaning, the administrators who have been at the schools that have been impacted and at the schools that haven't, to reassure staff and parents that things are continuing business as usual for now. And then especially the communications department. I know that they've been working more than overtime to make sure that we are putting out all the communications and keeping people informed because it is a changing daily situation. So thank you all for those folks and everything that you've been doing to help keep our schools safe. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, we are going to move on to public comments this evening, and we have a couple tonight. I want to welcome folks to our school board meeting. The board does recognize the value of public comments on educational issues and the importance of involving members of the public in its meetings. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome you and share how this portion of the meeting is conducted. I believe both speakers have actually been here before, but I'm going to give you a quick refresher. I will call you to the podium in the order of which you signed up tonight. Each speaker has 3 minutes. You will see 3 lights on the podium. The first light, the green light, indicates go time. The yellow light means you have 30 seconds remaining, and the red light is the end of your public comment period. All comments are recorded and made available for future viewing by the board and public. And the public comment part of the agenda is for the board to listen to what you have to say. It is not a time for debate or discussion. Board members do not respond to individual comments. And with that, I would like to call to the podium Mr. Ed Glazer. He is a resident of the district.
So I don't use this, okay.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. I want to address you something of grave concern of mine, but it's a grave concern that's most positive. And I'll continue the theme that Ms. Berg. I had the opportunity to volunteer and help out at the Empower to Lead Summit on February 28th. It was one of the most inspiring opportunities that I have had in my life. When I finished with that, with this session, I said to myself, wow, there is these kids that attended this session, this Empower to Lead Summit, there is hope for our future. They were absolutely awesome. There were 150 high school students from each of the high schools in our district. And the goal of the summit was to promote awareness, networking, inclusion around the issues of social justice, leading to increased student sense of belonging, positive action in their school community. Based upon my observations and participation in each of the sessions that I had an opportunity to sit in, those goals were achieved and beyond. The students were engaged, they're asking questions, their involvement in the speakers of each session were absolutely astounding. One of the most impressive things beyond the students was seeing the interaction of the students with Dr. Salzman. It was refreshing, it was transparent, it was honest, it was open, sharing his story with the students, students asking him questions, him conversing with the students. It was an opportunity for students to see a leader of their school district interacting with them in a most positive, enlightening way. I want to thank Joy Odom Grant. I want to thank Dee Aiken-Smith. I want to thank Kathy Parkin, who had a hand in making sure all the stuff was available, and then Sally Lancaster, who headed up that team. It was an inspiring session. And I wish, I know I saw Ms. Berg there. It was a session that you would have been most proud of our students, proud of the participation, and I'll even say this, and it doesn't come easy me saying this, proud of the superintendent. His interaction with the students and how he worked in answering their questions was a real positive shot in the arm for the school district and each and every student that attended. So there's a shocker for me. Okay.
Thank you so much for taking your time to come share your thoughts with us tonight. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Joe Campana. Is it a P or a D? P. Campana, and he would like to speak to the board on ESSB 5395.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here again this month. Appreciate the response from last month where you responded to my request for information on comprehensive sex ed and relooking at that you'll be working on this March. I'd just like to bring to your attention that ESSB, Engrossed Senate Bill 5395, has passed through the Senate and the House and is headed to Governor Inslee's desk for signature. My concern with this bill, and I actually have some handouts for you from another school district that are urging Governor Inslee to veto no on this because it takes away local control of curriculum. The current curriculum that is published and available by OSPI does not cover the K through 6. And what I'm reading from another school district is this is also an unfunded mandate, and I'm concerned that there is not a set of curriculum that are available to us as a school district. And if there's none available, that means one will be provided by another school district to us, OSPI to review, and that will limit our local control if we don't have funding to investigate alternatives if the one that's provided by OSPI is unacceptable to our parents, our communities. I'm just concerned that this bill takes away our local control to do good with our students and look at what our students' needs are within our local community. So I'd urge the school district, the school board, and to write a similar note to Governor Inslee requesting a veto of this bill. Obviously, by the time I could ask for a official response, but I urge you to follow suit with other school districts.
We will certainly provide you a response.
Okay.
And when you're finished, if you are, feel free, please, just to leave your paper there, and we'll make sure that each director has a copy of it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, we are going to move on to the consent agenda. Dr. Salzman, please introduce this afternoon's consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes includes items that occur less frequently, but are of a routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or to consider discussion about the policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, the consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of the consent agenda, the superintendent's office has received no questions or comments regarding these items. Therefore, the consent agenda is presented and published for board approval.
Thank you. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is in order.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Director Mitchell and seconded by Director Lasane to adopt the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. Section 10.0 is strategic progress monitoring, and this afternoon we do not have any strategic progress monitoring plan for this meeting, which takes us to Section 11, information and discussion, and tonight we have two items of business. 11.0 11.01 is a coronavirus update. Kathy Reeves will get us started.
Okay, thank you for having us here tonight. So we want to give you an update on things that have happened in the last 12 days. And we're going to start talking a little bit about communications that have occurred, and then we're going to talk about maintenance and facilities and operations, go into human resources, and then review some other considerations we have pending. For the communications, the first 72 hours, the way we started was receiving a call from the Snohomish Health District that we had a positive student, and immediately that convened many conversations and cabinet meetings where we decided how to proceed. And following the guidance from the Snohomish Health District, although we found out a little bit before their press conference, they asked us to hold off on publishing any information until they were able to present that message. And since this is a public health concern, they do take the lead in all of that communication. So once the health district had their press conference, then we were able to start disseminating information to our community. And that started with our staff first, so they could be prepared to answer questions that might arise. And then we sent information out to all of our families. And really a lot of what happened over the next couple days was looking at what questions might be answered and getting, or questions might be asked and getting answers ready for those, developing our messaging, and really putting together a plan for what we knew would be moving forward an ongoing situation, and creating fact sheets, because our number one goal is to get accurate information out to the community, have people feel informed, and try to keep people calm and keep rumors at bay. So our goal was to make sure we kept facts out there as much as possible. And part of that was we made sure to have updates on all of our social sites and on our website at least 2 or 3 times a day. And even though things feel like they are different than they were last weekend, we still do keep those updates going, because there's always another question that we think, oh, that's a really good question. We want to have it out there. So whenever we get asked questions that we think other people might want to know, we put that up there. So anytime you want to know, how would I answer this question? It's all there on our webpage. And again, all of the decisions we made were as a result of consulting with the Snohomish Health District and the Department of Health, and as Dr. Salzman mentioned in his message, led by the cabinet and by him in making the decisions on how we will move forward, knowing their recommendations. And continued to develop messaging. We responded to a lot of media requests, and again, just trying to keep the facts out there and keep our families informed, because that's the number one thing, is really to make sure our families are informed about that. And the one piece that communications played in this, in addition to getting communications out, was to kind of be the central holding house for all the information. So we knew that one department wasn't going off and doing things that we weren't aware of. Anybody who did anything in response to the coronavirus situation fed the information up through communication, so we could be the holding house of that information. So we knew that the messaging was consistent. We knew where there were gaps, where something wasn't being addressed, and we could have that overall plan all together. That was the first 72 hours. The ongoing work that we're doing is that we continue to monitor FAQs, any other school implications that happen, for instance, the closing of Woodside on Monday and Tuesday. making sure they know that they're back in school tomorrow on Wednesday, creating plans for students who may have been quarantined and are entering back into school to make sure their entry back into school is easy and good and helpful for them. And then making sure that really hourly we're monitoring and responding to information as it occurs and making sure that we have the most up-to-date information for the decisions that we're making as a district. And then also we get daily reports on student attendance as well, so we can see how this is impacting student attendance district-wide. And I think at that point, we're going to have Mr. Gunn tell you about the maintenance piece of it.
Yes, so our activities started Friday afternoon, soon after a public announcement went out. We mobilized a special custodial crew to start work at Jackson High School, and you can read, I won't read through it, you can read, and I'm sure you've gotten updates from other sources as well. So basically our custodial crew goes through and begins cleaning first and then disinfecting surfaces. They start with a sprayer with has disinfectant in it, and the first thing to do is basically to spray surfaces that horizontal surfaces or vertical appurtenances that students or staff typically touch. So basically they try to spray everything and then let that sit for about 10 minutes, and then they go back with a wipe down procedure with gloves and wipe down all the surfaces. And then they'll do that again as needed. And but I want to emphasize the first thing they have to do is go in and actually clean. So we hit that really hard on Friday afternoon and evening, and then Saturday, we did the same thing, had a crew show up bright and early at Jackson. And then basically at that time, we also decided to expand our special cleaning services to Gateway and Heatherwood. So beginning Saturday and heading into Sunday, we had additional crews at Heatherwood and Gateway as well. And then since Jackson High School was closed on Monday, we got back into that school and did some more. We also moved all of the community use of Jackson High School for the weekend and also for Monday to other locations. We got back into Jackson High School with it's called the Kivac cleaning machine, and basically it has a special liquid that we use and spray it onto the surfaces in the restrooms, similar to the spraying procedure that we do with the rest of the school, but it's in a machine that actually heats up the liquid before it sprays it down. So again, it disinfects the surfaces there. Our maintenance department did training with their staff on Monday morning to bring everyone in that department up aware of what was happening and re-explain, I think, to them, because they had already received training on this equipment and these procedures, but to acquaint everyone with the importance of the personal protective equipment, so they wear the masks and the gloves when they spray on the products, and then to make sure that everyone was up to speed. They continued to clean Jackson High School and Gateway. Then also the grounds crew went out and went above and beyond the call of duty in a sense, and had some time, since they weren't doing work at Jackson High School on Monday. They actually did a nice job pressure washing and spiffing up the front entrance to the school. Then as we were getting ready for our staff to come back on Monday at Jackson High School and at all other schools in the district, we made sure that the classrooms and the classroom teachers had a spray bottle of sanitizer and a cleaning cloth and a little informational message for them. We have a little picture of that, so that was there to greet all the staff as they came back. And then in addition, our buses, both ours and the ones used by Durham to provide service to Jackson High School, all those buses were wiped down and sanitized. And then in addition, that we, as you can imagine, have been ordering some additional cleaning supplies and materials. So we were one of the first districts around to get our order in. I'm not sure that that's going to mean a lot with all of the other orders that they're getting, but we ordered 400 hand sanitizer stations due for delivery this week. well, this is Tuesday of this week and we haven't seen it yet. Molly's trying to chase down where they are in terms of delivery, and we're trying to keep the pressure on the vendor for that. So we've also developed and began implementing a procedure every night to go into another school, to bring a maintenance crew into one school a night, and then on the weekends as well. So, for example, I have a list here somewhere, but we've already hit Woodside and then gone back into Woodside. Tambar Creek Elementary was scheduled for special cleaning on Monday night. Well, we actually got into that over the weekend, so we didn't have to necessarily go back in on yesterday at Tambar Creek. So we're working our way through the district, doing additional cleaning. We've also, we have what's called a light duty custodian, and so he can't do heavy duty. So he's going into various schools in the evening and sanitizing the touch points in the school where people would touch the handles, the doors, and doing that on additional schools. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Debbie Kovacs.
So as you know, we were busy for 72 hours. So immediately in communication with the communications director to come up with our initial communications, consulted with the district council regarding impacts on employee groups due to school closure, and certainly reached out to area human resources directors to find out what they're doing and, you know, all the labor laws that are around our employees who would miss work. And then I advised the HR leadership team to be prepared for potential high absences and be prepared to cover those absences. And then I worked closely with the Jackson High School principal in many communications, again, working closely with Kathy, making sure that we had the same messaging going out, and then worked with our union leaders to make sure that they were on board as well. And ongoing, we continue to monitor our staff absences and contingencies for filling spots or absences or substitutes, because our substitutes are choosing not to come as well. We have reached out to area districts and have hired some extra substitutes from them, given some of their closures as well. Managing leave questions and concerns, again, as things evolve and it's so dynamic, wanting to make sure that we're sending the same message out to our employees, and continuing to engage with our labor groups to get their feedback and keep them apprised of what's going on. And then, again, ongoing, regularly talking to area HR directors as we try to navigate this new situation. And then ongoing responding to our employees as they have inquiry and checking in with our communications and legal counsel.
So we know that this is not over tomorrow, and there'll be other decisions to make. And so in addition to following the guidance of the health district, we wanted you to see some other considerations that we have before us. And one of the most important is the direction we're getting from OSPI, and that is the recommendation that there are some things that we need to be able to provide our students. And the first one is that we need to make sure all of our students have equal access to learning and the required materials, including technology, and Brian's going to address technology in a minute. The other piece is that we need to ensure that any student who has an IEP must be able to have the same sort of education that other students do. And that full day requirement for full day kindergarten is met, and also anybody who's doing dual credit coursework. We need to make sure that we provide training to the staff and students and parents and guardians on how the system works and give them the resources they need to do that and make sure they have the same education opportunities. Another is to provide school meals, and just to make sure that we're taking the traditional environment online, that we need to consider all of these factors. And so I wanted to show you a couple numbers for us that apply to this. You can see that each day we have around 3,300 students who eat breakfast here at school, and 65% of those are free lunch, 12%, or free breakfast, 12% is reduced, and 23% is full pay. And we have over 9,000 students who eat lunch at school every day, and 40% of those get that as a free lunch. And then as you look at the requirement that we need to provide the same education for students who have individual educational plans, you can see we have over 2,500 students that fit that category. So in any decisions we make moving forward, those are considerations that we have to look very seriously at to make sure that we're providing the equal opportunity for all of our students. And then Mr. Beckley is going to talk about the one-on-one and technology.
So our district one-to-one technology is another consideration, and as a reminder, one-to-one technology means one computer for each student. The journey to Everett Public Schools being a one-to-one district was us learning together. The leadership team and key stakeholders, some of you included, studied together the book Revolutionizing Education Through Technology, the Project Red Roadmap for Transformation. We read that first in 2015, and through that developed a 2016 capital levy that funded this work and an integrated technology plan that we have that guides the work of our one-to-one implementation. Included in that is our infrastructure build-out, supporting technology, putting computers in the hands of students. Also included in that is professional development for staff in support of getting ready to go one-to-one and some on-site support in their initial year of going one-to-one. Teachers learned about blended learning, visual literacy, lesson design for authentic learning. The design of our one-to-one program looks different in the elementary and in the secondary level. In grades K through 5, students have a dedicated Chromebook in their classroom that's available to them. And in grades 6 through 12, students are assigned a computer for use at school and at home. And by the end of this summer, we will have finished the one-to-one implementation and have all schools one-to-one in Everett Public Schools. This illustration shows the timeline of the capital levy plan over time. You can see the ending point there of summer 2020. The computers at the middle school and the high school are a little bit different. The middle school has a Chromebook that is a 2-in-1. It's a computer and a tablet. Like the high school, it has digital inking, same as the high school. The high school device is a Windows PC. The elementary is a basic Chromebook laptop with a touchscreen. This illustration shows the current status of our District 1-to-1 broken down by region. You can see at the secondary level, those assigned to students are at the top portion there with 2 middle schools left this summer that will be deployed, and then you see the elementaries in that classroom-based that are still to go for deployment this summer. We will continue to inform our community and keep the facts at the forefront. I guess, are there any questions?
Thank you for all of you for the information. It's very helpful. Directors, do you have questions for anyone on any of the different topics or student representative?
I have one comment and a statement. I guess those are the same things, those are synonyms. First off, going grocery shopping this weekend and looking for alcohol and other things, and bumped into staff that were going grocery shopping or looking for the toilet paper that for some reason isn't around. But from the staff, the feedback that 3 different staff members at 3 different stores was positive towards the communication and the fact that we've managed to keep the schools open. That can stay open, and so just that recognition, I think, of staff of our work, I think is and of your work and communication. I want to pass that on, but then also looking at the OSPI guidance, that first line about needing to provide technology and knowing that we don't have the technology for our elementary school kiddos or the Gateway North kiddos. It caused me pause about us doing any drastic things. And so I think our stepwise approach, our day by day, I really do appreciate that because, in that guidance too, it says, they are maybe looking at how are they going to do some mitigation for these days off. Mm-hmm. That's not a guarantee. Yeah. And graduation cannot be July 4th because I won't be here. So thank you. I just want to say thank you.
I just had a question about the one-to-ones, the one-to-one version in the elementary schools. If if needed, would those be able to be taken home by the kiddos? Because it sounds like they're one-to-one, like a cart in a classroom, potentially. And I know there's still a couple of schools that don't have it, but if need be, would we have a checkout system available?
Yes, the Chromebooks at elementary are not configured to leave the network currently, so we would need to make a change.
So you would have to do a configuration change. Okay.
And we don't have a funding source yet for elementary school home Wi-Fi for those free and reduced lunch kids?
Correct.
So that even if they could take it home for our schools that don't have access, it'd be a useless.
That would be another consideration.
Okay.
That we'd have to factor into our planning, yes.
I have a couple of other questions. I know that there are a lot of people that are trying to keep up with communications in the press, and it causes a lot of confusion as to what is considered disinfecting and what is considered adequate. You see pictures of people in protective equipment going around spraying buildings. Mike, in your ability to go around and, as you say, you spray down, the tabletops and then you go back and wipe them down. Can you explain the differences you see on TV with people in foreign countries going around and spraying it? And just to give our families, I guess you would say, reassurance that what we are doing is adequate. How would you explain that to them?
So I am not going to even try to explain or defend any practices outside of our district. For example, I don't watch much TV myself. I know that a lot of the press likes to have video of people in masks and all that. We use personal protective equipment for our custodial staff when they're spraying disinfectant, but typically they only wear gloves normally. And so the wipe down procedure and the day-to-day cleaning activities don't usually require those extensive protection equipment, personal protective equipment. I will say that again, emphasize the best way to limit or prevent, not prevent, but to reduce the spread of this thing is to have good cleaning practices, and then have people, of course, stay home when they're sick, and to do what their doctor says. So we're taking the precautions that are recommended by our consultants. So we have an industrial hygienist that we work closely with, and also a lot of recommendations from various governmental agencies.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have one more question for Debbie, in that when other districts around us are going through the same crisis that we are going through, and we have to close a school for whatever reason, is it possible to utilize those teachers at those schools that we close at filling the substitute role at other schools? Or do we just tell those, like when Jackson closed, just go home? But if we had, need for substitutes at our other schools, would they be able to fill those roles?
We haven't reached out to the regular teachers of North Shore, but we did reach out to their substitutes and talk to their substitute coordinator, and we have hired on 15 certificated substitutes. There might be some conflict with them being on contract and coming over and working at another district, because depending upon whether they use leave or whether they're getting their base pay, they couldn't be paid double. So that might be a problem. But substitutes are itinerant. Either they work or they're not working, and they're paid when they work. So we're able and have done that. So we have additional substitutes that will be coming through.
When Jackson High School was closed, could we use them within our own district and other schools to fill in the need for substitutes?
That's an option we could look at. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. Just staff absenteeism. I guess, are we seeing a trend upwards at some of our schools, or?
We are monitoring that daily. We are seeing we're seeing lower fill rates. Our attendance is down a bit, but not. It's the fact that our substitutes are not wanting to come in necessarily. across the board, and since the 28th, our subfill rates have gone down, and we're struggling with that. So we continue to monitor that, as we've always done around year-round. We look at our professional development offerings, we make adjustments, so that's something that we do regularly. And then again, we're reaching out and we're running substitute orientations more frequently. We're running them once a month. We're now having one next week, and we have 10 substitutes in the pipeline, and then we will run another one the next week with another 15 substitutes. So we're trying to recruit as quickly as we can. You're welcome.
I just had one more question for Brian. Sorry. It was about the hotspots because it made me think about it when Director Mitchell mentioned the kiddos that don't have Wi-Fi. Just in general, are we doing anything as a district to reach out to them, even in a non-emergency situation? Because I'm thinking about like with schools, even like snow days, let's say, and if you're in a situation where your family doesn't have Wi-Fi, is there a way that we could survey them and then either provide them? I know Comcast used to have like a $9.95 a month or just a really cheap rate for those families.
Well, for our one-to-one secondary schools, which need the internet activity action at home, we provide Wi-Fi hotspots for them. Middle school has a T-Mobile hotspot, and the high school has a Sprint. Well, that's the same thing now, but it's a grant program. We're part of for high school.
Can we do that for elementary? I guess that's my question.
I mean, that would have to be in our planning and consideration. We would need to include that. It's not currently because it's not designed as a take-home.
The only reason I'm asking is because even beyond this situation or beyond anything else, if we've got elementary families that don't have internet access, that's going to be an equity and learning issue, regardless of the one-to-one being taken home, because those kiddos need some type of access, especially for, let's just call them snow days. But if we could kind of stick a pin on that just to look at that as a board.
No, that's good.
We've talked about that too, maybe some checkout for kids, especially with iReady reading and stuff like that.
Yeah, just because they got to get those 45 minutes
What
in.
are opportunities, maybe small groups and things like that.
Yep. Great, thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second information and discussion item is the enrollment outlook for 2020 through 2030. This is an annual report the board receives, and Mr. Gunn is going to give us an update.
Okay, so this is the time of the year when we have finally completed our enrollment updates, and now we're presenting to you what those are, along with what our projections look like for the near future and longer term. The implications of enrollment are many and far-reaching in our district. The number of students really drives most of our funding for the school district. It also affects directly staffing, as well as in a facilities perspective, capital bond and levy planning, boundary changes, portable locations, how we utilize space, when we buy property or where we buy property, as well as ultimately the calculation of impact and mitigation fees. So then allocation of technology, and I could probably go on and on. So basically we use enrollment projections in various ways. We use a consultant, Les Kendrick, who produces, and you'll see some of the results of this here in a few minutes, a high, medium, and low projection. We also, and by the way, for our official enrollment projections, we use his medium range projection. We also obtain from OSPI their projections. Theirs tends to be not as accurate as ours, and it also doesn't go out as far. Theirs goes out 6 years, ours goes out 10 years and even longer sometimes. And then also the Office of Financial Management produces enrollment projections, population forecasts that then we use. We figure out how that is related to enrollment, and then so we can project enrollment out based on population forecasts for as far out as OFM produces population forecasts. So the factors that affect projections, birth rates, obviously, historical trends, how many students at a grade level roll up to the next grade level over that year. We do get some loss. And sometimes increases over that time too. Also, housing market changes and other economic indicators will, so the cost of housing and the interest rates, there are a lot of variables that go into this. I wanted to mention that we use head count and not full-time equivalent students for these projections. We also are, especially Karen Buckman is instrumental in producing a district one-year look ahead. So she starts with Les Kendrick's projections, and then she actually does a very in-depth analysis of that, talks to school principals, and then modifies that to some degree to reflect what she actually thinks is going to happen the next year. So we even go further than Les Kendrick's projections. This is a graph that shows from 1951 to 2019. So it's about over 68 years and how much growth we've had. So except for a period in the 70s and 80s, other than that period of time, we have been growing for pretty much that entire time frame. Here are the actual numbers. I mentioned Les Kendrick produces a high, medium, and low, and that's the blue, dark blue. The green is OSPI's projections, and the red is the actual. So, so in October of 2000, actually, no, I'm sorry, it was this time in 2019, using the 2018 actual enrollment counts, Les Kendrick produced this projection for this last fall. And as you can see, his medium range projection was 93 off of where we actually ended up. So our actual counts came in at 20,169, which is he was 93 students less than what was actually projected. It was still an increase, though, of about 90 students. So even though the actual numbers came in lower than Les Kendrick's numbers, it came in within the high and low range, though. So it came in a little bit on the low side, but still within that range that he gives us. But it was still an increase. So that's the takeaways from that slide. This shows the other school districts in Snohomish County. We used to, up until about a year ago, we could say we were the fastest growing school district in the county. We can still say we have been one of the fastest growing, but it's kind of past tense in terms of, still, if you look over time, for a long time, we have been. We've had a tremendous amount of growth, but you can see other school districts are growing faster than we are right now in the county. Some are growing less, of course, but. So this shows 4 counties, King, Kitsap, Pierce, and Snohomish. And it's just kind of interesting to look at. King and Pierce have been growing consistently over the time frame shown, whereas Kitsap and Snohomish have actually varied at times, kind of a more up and down. So what the projections show is, and how we actually ended up. The medium range projections, we came in actually under that for the elementary and high school enrollments, and the middle school enrollments actually came in a little bit higher than that, than the medium range projections. Elementary enrollments, this is interesting, declined this year for the first time since 2011, has an implication for the future. We're not declining at all. I'm just saying it has the effect of slowing that growth down at the elementary level. Birth rates declined slightly over the last 2 years, and it's expected to continue. As we know, sales of and construction of single-family homes has slowed down. Multifamily homes, apartments, and condos have dramatically increased, especially in the northern part of the district, in the city of Everett. And that's going to continue. And then our share of the K-12 Snohomish County enrollment is remaining steady at 18.4%. This shows the elementary high, medium, and low, red, green, blue, or purple at the bottom. OSPI's projections are shown in the light or the bright blue that go out towards the very top. So what you're seeing from OSPI's perspective, their enrollments projections don't pick up emerging trends as quickly as Les Kendrick's does. So they're still projecting a pretty dramatic increase, up near and even higher than our high range projection. So I expect that you'll actually see more of the middle range there. And then middle school, same thing. OSPI's projections are near the high end of our projections from Les Kendrick. Same at the high school. So when you, and by the way, I wanted to point out high school. Remember with the boundary process, we said the peak high school enrollment's 2023. That's still evident in this chart, even looking at any one of the three projections. So the question is, after 2023, how long does it slow down, and then when does it start going back up? So we're still on the path to have the peak enrollment at high school over the next 10 years being 2023. Here's the K-12 enrollment. Again, OSPI is, add them all up, OSPI is near the top of the projections. And basically what is happening is the decrease at the elementary school level, and we came in lower than projection. We are picking up that trend a lot quicker in the projections. Here's the one-year projection out. We're predicting an increase of 185 students. You can see the various grade levels. And we're giving you a look back for 4 years and then projecting out to 2020, October 1 of 2020. So during that time frame, we're showing growth of 185 for 1 year at the various grade levels. This is the same kind of a projection, elementary, middle, and high out through 2030. So you're just going to see, we think about it's actually 11-year projection of an increase of just under 1,500 students. This is what I find kind of the most interesting. This shows regional, North region, Central, and South. So you could translate that on the high school level to be Everett High, Cascade, and Jackson, North, Central, South. And what you're seeing at that level, at the high school, you're seeing a lot more growth in the north end than in the south end. You're actually showing the decline at Jackson High and an increase, significant increase at Everett High. That is reflecting exactly what the boundary change achieved. So in other words, what used to be a major increase in the south end is now, because of the boundary shift, you're seeing that be an actual decline in the numbers. And that's how portables at Jackson High School, the count out at 2023, instead of going up to 30, it's going to actually go down to, we think, about 10 or so. And then, so I'm going to go back here and say, so, but remember, out to 2023, we're still showing growth at all grade levels. It's just that we've switched the high school enrollment north. This shows elementary, middle, and high, and you can kind of see some of the echoing effect. Usually, if you would like, I could talk about it. But what happens at the middle, at the elementary level, what's going to happen 3 or 4 years later at the middle, which happens 3 or 4 years later at the high school. You can kind of see it echoing. And the reason that graphically that we think it's going to increase at the high school level is because if you look at the elementary growth, that even though we got a little flat spot or decline right in here the previous year, we're still going to see a continuous growth, and that does echo up to the middle and high school levels. So here's, we've actually asked Les Kendrick, and every year he does this now for us, he gives us a little chart that shows how accurate his projections have been compared to OSPI's projections. And to understand this, you have to understand the concept of relative, I think it's called relative value, and it's not whether it was low or high, it's how many you were off of being right on projections. So if you look out to the right, it means that on the average, the 6-year projections from OSPI were, on the average, 765 students off of being perfect. So they could have been high or low, but, and if you look at Les Kendrick's projections on a 6-year outlook, his average difference from being exactly right on is 406. So just about almost twice as accurate as OSPI is over that time frame. And so next steps is we use this to projections to influence all of the decision making that we make in all these areas, just kind of emphasizing again how it's so important for us. And ultimately after school starts in September, we will adjust staffing based on where the kids actually show up and begin the process all over again. So with that, a summary, enrollment projections, and the actual numbers are extremely important. We use them in many areas of our operations. And projections are that enrollment growth rate will slow down but continued increase at all grade levels. And then the high school boundary change did, from this evidence here, did achieve its goal of moving enrollment northward. That completes my presentation.
I think one thing that didn't get highlighted in the presentation this evening that I want to make sure gets noted is the accuracy year over year, and how it has been, with I think the exception of 2015, within less than 1% of accuracy of actual enrollment. So we get a lot of questions about how we forecast, and I don't think many people really understand the complexities. Reading the report is actually quite fascinating, I think, the level of detail and I actually read it all. It's weird, but it does help to better understand what goes into this and how we are able to get as accurate as we have been year over year, and looking at all. And the trends are really interesting too, just for understanding economics in your local region, if anyone's interested. It's online. So with that, do the directors have any questions for Mr. Gunn or student representative? Director Berg?
I always have a question. I'm sorry.
Don't ever apologize for asking questions.
So
please.
just in terms of, just to refresh my memory, so with the boundary changes coming in place for high school next year, are we still on track, if like once you digest all this data, are we still on track to have a noticeable difference in the size and the population at Jackson next year, or will it be more of a rolling effect and it'll be maybe year 2 or 3 when there's actually a noticeable difference?
I think it's actually going to may not be as evident as we were thinking at Jackson High for a year or so. We have adjusted the actual impact that will be coming at that school, for example, by any time we actually see where people move to. So we also, the numbers will actually be influenced a lot by how many waivers we offer and other choices that are made over time.
So that's a great point. So will we get visibility about those waivers and about those numbers kind of independent? Because it seems like sometimes we're dealing with, the Kendrick numbers, which are very population-based and that type of thing. And then we've got waivers, which are more of just that district housekeeping kind of thing, and what we grant and what we don't. So are we going to get a feel for what that looks like?
I will have to defer to a future time to provide those.
Yeah, that would be great. Sure. And then my last question is, with these numbers, is it taking into like the urban growth potential changes there? And I guess the question is, I know it doesn't right now, but do we have a plan to start taking that into account one way or another with some of these numbers?
Yes, we have our capital facilities plan, which will bring you a draft version of here, I think in April. You'll start to see how we're planning to respond to the enrollment projections that are based on the long-term population forecasts. We'll start to talk about that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much for the information.
Thank you. And I like reading this stuff too.
I know, it's kind of, it's not for everyone. Yeah, you just missed Director Andrews because she loved reading the CAFR. Okay, with that, we are moving to unfinished business, and this afternoon we have no unfinished business, so we will move forward with new business, section 13.0, and 13.01 is a schedule change to the board annual regular meeting schedule 2019-20, proposed revision, first reading. And is anyone presenting that, or can I just go ahead? Dr. Salzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With this agenda item, I'm recommending to the board a revision to the board annual regular meeting schedule to move from July 7th to July 1st.
Are there any questions or conversations? Okay, with that, we will go ahead and move that to second reading at our next regular board meeting.
Thank you.
And that takes us to upcoming agenda items. Again, Dr. Salzman, can you please review our upcoming agenda items?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. At the March 17th special meeting, we will discuss the following: Budget Development Workshop, Everett Public Schools, the coronavirus response and planning update to this crisis. 4.02 special meeting. At the March 24th special meeting, we'll discuss negotiation training. Regular meeting on March 24th, 2020. At that meeting, we'll discuss the following: high school, college, career, life readiness indicators, communications plan update, detention center educational program interlocal agreement, and asset preservation update.
Thank you. Section 15.0 is executive or closed session, and this afternoon we do not have a executive or closed session, which takes us to 16.0 adjournment. That concludes the business scheduled to come before Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. This meeting is adjourned.